as lots of research is happening about fitness and the body and aging, vitality, lifespan, all that jazz, we still have a lot of things in question. But what's coming down more and more frequently, which I'm very excited about, but yet challenged by it, is the importance of muscle mass and strength training, not just as we're aging, as we get older, but the importance of it being in our lives before we hit 40, before we hit 50, before we hit 60, 70, and 80. So, and it gets trickier, right? Like, I have loved fitness and done strength training for many, many years. And yet my body, it feels great inflammation at times and great pain. And so it's difficult to do any exercise. So I wanted to offer you 4 exercises that you don't need any weights, but it just gets your body moving. And you can start with this, and then we're going to add to it as you see fit. But fitness, particularly 50 plus, is about really listening to your body and the importance of understanding that strength training is also connected to rest, not over resting. And there's this degree that we have to kind of push through and work through and still do some things with discomfort. So that's up to you to figure that out and to step on your journey. All I know is that I do feel better when I have exercised. I also know when I've overdone it. And that's a process. You just kind of live and learn, and slowly one of these days I will grow up and figure this out. But in the meantime, I'm going to just do short examples of 4 exercises that you can do in your home. And this is my little made up gym at home, and then just add on to that as far as how many repetitions you do, how many sets you do. Go with your body and listen to it. Some of these exercises, they're all goldie oldies, but some of them have a bit of a different twist now, and certainly how I would teach them as a personal trainer now is different than how I taught it 10 years ago. So here's the thought. The first one goes with an air squat. In an air squat, we used to always just focus on your legs getting to a 90 degree right here. And now it's understood that we actually need to get lower. So it's like bringing your body right down and then bringing it back up. And so in this process, what I focus on doing is that my feet aren't exactly straight on, but they have a slight angle out. But I'm trying to get my butt back as far as I can. And I'm actually trying to get my thighs down to my calves and then bringing it back up. And by allowing my toes to be out a little bit, it allows for a little bit of motion and movement within my hips, which is really good right now. And this is a big component for those of us in peri and menopause. We have a lot of inflammation, a lot of lack of happening in our hips. And so that mobility is super, super important. And this is also one of those exercises that you can do at your own speed. And of course, as many repetitions, but it's something that you might actually find, even if you start in discomfort, you might find this motion even though it's challenging, you may find it actually loosen up your hips. The second one I call is a hip dip. And again, focusing on the hip because my hips have really inflamed in the past 5 years. And so because I believe we're all more alike than not, there's probably a good chance there's a few of you out there that have a little bit of hip stuff happening. The other one, what we just did, the air squat, keeping in mind, you're always coming up and trying to engage your glute, like just thinking about it. And I have an interview out there with pelvic floor therapist, Kelsey, and she talks about weakening within the pelvic floor in this area, that it's not that is the contracted muscle, the gluteus maximus, but working on isolating your gluteus will help you work on strengthening your pelvic floor area. So when we're doing this next exercise, I want you to think about that. So right now I'm standing on a yoga block. You can do this on a step. And what you're going to do is, let me show it this way. Don't mind me. Your leg, your one leg, this guy, is dangling down. And the other leg, you're bending, you're letting your hip just bend. So you're almost going like you're standing on your hip. So you're dropping it down and you're just doing this and up. Drop down and up. Drop down and up. And now what you want to do is you don't want to allow yourself to collapse totally. You want to still think about shoulders, boobs, hips, but let that hip come out and pull it back in, and using that back glute. So out, pull it in, and then engage your core. So it is a lot about the beginnings. It's not the intricacies of working with your pelvic floor, but working on all those muscles, which I highly recommend you go and see. If you have any concerns or funkiness or frequent urination that has changed and shifted, to go see a pelvic floor specialist. And she will talk to you about the muscles in the back, the muscles in the front, and surrounding all of your hip area, as well as your pelvis, or your pelvis. So the third exercise that I'd like to teach you or offer you is a reversed lunge, but with a crossover. And the reason I include this one is because the crossover, I feel, is very important in your hip, because reality is we're not just like always walking straight forward and back. We have a lot crossing over. And so it's very important that we strengthen it in the weak moment. So it's often a weakening place to cross your leg over. And these things happen, and all of this is about building stability and a base for your body. So again, I'll try to do it in my little space, and of course with me here. So feet are shoulder width apart, and we're just going to step one foot back and cross it back. And this leg here, you're trying your best to hold the stability, engage your core, chest, shoulders are up, and then push up. And then you're crossing back and down and up and cross and up and down. So let's see if we can do it this way. Crossing back, down, and up, tall, 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 and cross down and up. And I don't know about you, but I feel like my balance has been thrown tremendously in the past 5 years. And I actually think it's from a weakening that has occurred in my left hip, and a lot of muscles and ligaments and everything contained in there. And I'm working on it, strengthening it. These areas, if you have any of that or bits with your balance, I highly recommend this. It's also connected to our core strength. So all of these exercises, yes, sit-ups help, or abdominal work, absolutely important. But when you're doing exercises, it's so important to engage them. When you're pouring your cup of coffee, engaging your core. When you're driving, I love to do the exercises when you're driving, and just being aware and kind of like waking it up. So your last one is bringing you into the yoga world, and it's the tree pose, because again, going back to balance, and balance is all about us aging and how our bodies are feeling. And so your foot, let's start with your left foot down, and your toe is slightly angled out, and you can start with your foot closer onto your calf, wherever you kind of like it. And again, I kind of play with this. I am not a yogini. I am a beginner, and I think for the rest of my life I will be a beginner. But I do love many components of yoga, and this is definitely one of them. And so I just play with this for myself. So I just I start off really basic for myself, and I just allow myself to kind of get rooted. And again, this is the tree pose, the pose that I call of the warrior. And I really concentrate on an energy pulling all of my toes, my heels, and the flats of my foot down. And then I focus on my butt, right? And my abs to hold me in place. This guy's just kind of dangling. And then I actually, because of my flexibility and whatever, I like to try to put my leg up a little bit higher. It's always suggested not to put it directly on the knee joint. And then I like to encourage this leg to go out because we're trying to open up the hips. You see? Balance. And balance is also connected to like a concentration. So I kind of feel like I'm double dipping here with you all. So I'm working on this left glute, engaging my core. I'm going to drop my shoulders down and my head just wants to stay neutral. And then as I get a little bit more confident, if I so choose to, I might bring my arms out. I might bring them up. Sometimes I take this as an opportunity. My neck is a little bit of a bugger, so sometimes I take it as an opportunity to stretch out my chest. And here I've got my hands clasped together. See? Some work, some don't. And then sometimes people will close their eyes. I don't know where you might be, but you know, just taking care of yourself and whatever you need to be doing. And or maybe you might just be holding your hands right here on your heart, thinking about your breathing and what it feels like to stay in spot, in your tree pose, and embracing. I have a meditation that I love to do as well that focuses on the tree, rooting yourself down, standing in your space and showing up for yourself. And if you're interested in that, please check it out. It's on my website. And otherwise, good luck. We're on to our next one in a bit. Cheers.